Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September 2022 Tri-County Sustainability General Meeting. The TCS is a sustainability hub for 101 towns, 10 legislative districts, and 1.2 million people in Burlington, Camden, and Gloucester counties. Please, everyone, put your name, town, and county in the chat. We've got a great agenda here tonight. My name is Dorothy Foley, and I'm part of the growing TCS leadership team. I live in the beautiful borough of Merchantville in Camden County, where I chair the municipal green team. I'm a graduate of Drexel and much more recently a graduate of the Rutgers Environmental Stewards Program. I am helpful in the Towns Helping Towns program, which is part of the TCS, one of the many committees in TCS that helps surrounding communities. I am also part of the award-winning Incredible Edible Merchantville program, which promotes food security through the creation of edible landscapes. So I welcome everyone here tonight. We have an awesome agenda, and let's get to it. To introduce our first guest of the evening, let's welcome in the chair of the new TCS Green Building Committee, our buddy, Rich Marino. Rich?
Sorry about that, guys. I was on mute. Thanks, Dorothy. Hi, everyone. I'm Rich Marino from Deptford, New Jersey, which is located in Gloucester County. In the leadoff spot tonight from New Jersey's 8th Legislative District, we have a very special guest. It's South Jersey's very own Senator Jean Stanfield. By the way of some background, before joining the legislature, Senator Stanfield served as the first female sheriff in Burlington County's history. She had a long track record of public service and has personally won the region millions in dollars in grant funding for civil rights and community outreach programs. She currently serves on the Law and Public Safety, Health, Human Services, and Senior Citizen Committees. And most important to our audience tonight, the Senate Environment and Energy Committee. Legislative District 8 covers most of Burlington County and parts of Camden and Atlantic counties, including sections of the Pinelands and a lot of farmland. Ladies and gentlemen, give a big South Jersey welcome to Senator Jean Stanfield. Welcome to Tri-County Sustainability, Senator.
Thank you so much.
Great. So I know you're busy, and I appreciate you taking the time to meet with us tonight. Just had a few questions. Can you talk about some of your short-term legislative priorities to start us off?
Sure. So my apologies. I have a 4-year-old that just wanted to say hello. So,
that's all right.
Her mom was supposed to be here to get her, but it's not here yet. Yeah, so some of the priorities, sticking with the environmental committee right now, and you know, we've heard a lot of testimony about the grid, and I know, you know, we have very ambitious goals going forward, you know, for the wind and solar and things like that. But to me, I think it's important that we take measured steps so that we're still keeping in mind affordability, and also that we have a diverse group of, you know, different types of energy, so that we are not putting all our eggs in one basket, for lack of a better term. I think it's important that we continue to look at nuclear. It's a lot safer now. You know, I went on a tour and I learned a lot, because my generation, you hear nuclear, you think, you know, leaky tanks and things like that. And I know it's much safer now. It's done much differently in much smaller spaces. So that's one of the priorities Chairman Smith and I are working on, trying to do some incentives to get small nuclear facilities built, so that we do have something to back us up when we know that the solar and the wind just isn't going to cut it for, you know, certain periods of time.
Well, that brings me to what my next question is going to be, and leads in nicely, is, you know, what role do you think the nuclear energy plays, you know, has a place for in New Jersey?
Yeah, I still think it's important. You know, we get great bulk of our energy right now from nuclear, and like I said, when these other things fail, we're seeing it in other states. California is a great example. Texas was another example that, you know, either through weather conditions or whatever other reason, when the wind and the solar aren't able to carry the day, the nuclear still provides a cleaner, safe backup, and just to keep our portfolio very diverse as far as, what we have available to us. So I think it's important. So I do see a role for that. And I think it's important, to give incentives for people who are, doing this cutting edge work, trying to motivate people to, start the market going so that we can, have more of this type of energy.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. How about water infrastructure? What can the state do to improve?
Yeah, we're in bad shape. I took a tour of American Water in Delran, and it's very interesting to me. They told me that even some towns still have wooden pipes, let alone lead pipes. And that was mind-boggling to me. And I think it's very important that we work on our infrastructure. So I was one of the sponsors of a bill that would give more money so that we can give out grants to different towns so that they can start working on their infrastructure. And I think that's an important role for the state to make sure that we are helping the towns and, getting people safe drinking water and, making sure that our infrastructure is sound. And we have to worry about cybersecurity as well. So all of those things are considerations, but I think that's a very large role for the state.
Right, absolutely. And then farming, we know is important to you. How can we protect South Jersey's farmers?
Yeah, I've been visiting quite a few farms recently, and there's a number of different issues. One is just getting help. That's been a huge problem. The rising minimum wage makes it very difficult. I talked to some farmers that were trying to use the visa program and bring people to work, but there's a lot of hoops they have to jump through, makes it difficult. And, with the cost of everything going up right now, whether it's the fertilizer and things, a number of farmers have said that they're opting out. One farm that was growing organic vegetables, they had a very great business for many years. They had to stop growing. They just couldn't afford it. They couldn't afford the labor. They couldn't afford all the other things that they needed to, run their farm. So it's sad and it's scary because, we need farmers. And, I have a bunch of different bills to try to help farmers in any way that we can. Some would provide tax credits for leasing land to first-time farmers because we want to encourage young people to get, into farming. We don't want to see things drop off. We've had a lot of conversations with farmers in our area about the land preservation and how they want to do farmland preservation, but they can sell to a warehouse at 6 or 7 times, the value of what they would be getting paid for, setting their farm aside for preservation purposes. So, I think the state needs to do some work there to make sure that, we're offering people, viable offers that will have people retain their farms. We don't want to lose, what's so important, especially in South Jersey. The farms are a huge thing for us. We also have been helping a lot of farmers try to navigate through the system, when they have problems with the state, whether it's EPA or whatever, that's, creating issues for them, just helping them get answers to their questions and things like that. So a very, very important area for us is helping the farmers.
Great. Well, again, we know you have a lot on your plate. I want to thank you for taking the time to spend with us tonight and sharing all of that. And thank you again for all of your hard work.
Thank you, my pleasure. And, I'm always looking for ideas, and that's how I learn. I'm new to the Environment Committee, so my background is law and public safety. So I'm still definitely in the learning curve when it comes to the Environment Committee and the different issues. So I'm always open to, further discussions with you. If anyone has suggestions or, or if you're seeing some needs or problems, I'd be happy to, meet with any of you at a later date.
No, absolutely. Yes. Please let us know how, we can work with your office to support these important initiatives.
Perfect.
Awesome. All right. Back to you, Dorothy. Thanks again, Senator.
Take care.
Thanks, Rich. And thanks for all the good work you do, Senator. All the links are in the chat. Before we get to our next guest, it is National Drive Electric Week for all of you who don't know that. And we'd like to have Patrick McDevitt, our Energy and Transportation Chair, speak a little bit about that now. Patrick?
Thank you, Dorothy, and thanks to everyone for tuning in tonight. We wanted to let everyone know that this week, September 23rd to October 2nd, is National Drive Electric Week, and it's a nationwide celebration to raise awareness of the many benefits of all electric and plug-in hybrid cars, trucks, motorcycles, and more. So this Saturday at the beautiful promenade in Marlton on Route 73, we are partnering with the South Jersey Electric Vehicle Club and the New Jersey Electric Vehicle Association for what is the only event marking this week in our Tri-County footprint. So far we have over 25 cars registered. We'll have electric bike, scooter, and skateboard vendors. We'll have the awesome electrical contractor, Princeton Electrical Makeover, that's been doing a lot of charger installs and other EV work. Our friends from Sustainable Jersey will be here with info on how EVs can contribute to your municipal certification and your school certifications as well. We'll have the New Jersey DEP will be here with all the latest New Jersey incentives. Cross County Connections, our local transportation management association, will be here with all the municipal EV resources that are available. And shout out to them. They're also printing out all of our EV spec sheets for the event. We'll also have the New Jersey Sierra Club will be on hand to discuss their work in New Jersey, and Evesham Township will be representing and highlighting their Environmental Commission and the Green Team. So once again, it's Saturday from 10 to 2 at the Promenade. We hope to see everyone out there. The links will be in the chat, and we encourage you to share it with your friends. Thanks so much, and back to you, Dorothy.
Thanks so much, Patrick. I will personally attest that it's always an awesome event. I encourage people to go if they're able to. Now let's bring in our Environmental Justice Co-Chair, Sharonda Allen. Hi, Sharonda.
Hi, Dorothy. How are you today, this evening? Enjoying
Great.
the weather, I hope.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you as well. So I just want to introduce our next guest, Terrell Hagler, AKA your favorite trash man. He went viral back in 2020 for his Instagram account detailing life as a trash collector in Philadelphia. Since then, he's launched a nonprofit and his own hauling company and organizes regular community cleanup events. He's also the author of a children's book about keeping our towns clean and breaking news. He's running for Philadelphia City Council. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our favorite trash man, Terrell Hagler. Hi, Terrell.
Hey, how are you?
Great, and you?
I'm well. Thanks for having me.
All right, yeah, I just want to let you know I was able to watch that news report about you, and I just felt so connected to you because I feel the same way about my community and having the young people to care. So let's talk about some of your efforts to remedy systemic dumping because, you know, honestly, I got to say, people do this in urban areas, and I don't even think it's the people who live in the urban areas. So tell us what you found.
Yeah, more times than not, about 65% of the illegal dumping that's in urban area comes from outside the city. It comes from suburban areas, or it comes from construction sites that deem the community, you know, dirty or uninhabitable, so they feel like they can just, you know, dump the trash. And so what I've done is try to galvanize those communities and let them know that, you know, no matter what your zip code is, you deserve to live on a clean block. So I go into those neighborhoods, I clean. We give out resources. Most of those areas are below the poverty line. So I've added given out 2,000 pounds of food and groceries. We've added voter registration. I've connected with PGW. We're signing people up for LIHEAP. And I just want to use my cleanups as a resource hub, but also to ignite some hope and positivity that people start taking pride in their own neighborhoods, and we can start deterring people and getting people to realize that you can't just dump here because you think it's dirty. And then also trying to work with elected officials to add cameras and get enforcement and just so on and so on.
Yeah, thank you, because I think cameras are important because it's not just construction equipment. My grandmother lives in Scotch Plains and they have to pay for trash collection, whereas here in East Orange, we don't pay for a trash collection separately. It's in our taxes. So sometimes we see people dumping household trash in, curbside trash cans, and that's really disrespectful. So it's more than construction. So I appreciate that. And, you do a great job at making the complicated topic of pollution accessible to all audiences. Tell us a little bit about writing I'm Too Cool, a book targeted at younger children.
Yeah, so the book is called actually I'm Cool Too.
Okay. I'm sorry, I said it backwards.
It's okay.
I'm cool
It's okay.
too.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. But
thank you for that correction.
It's okay.
A little
No,
dyslexia for a minute.
It's all right. The book came from the conversation I had with my own children. So I have 3 kids who are 11 to 6. And when I was working as a sanitation worker, they were so disgusted. They were so ashamed. I couldn't pick them up from in front of the school. I had to park around the corner. They were telling their friends that I was a cop, that I was a karate teacher, that I was a flight attendant. They were just like, anything but a trash man is acceptable. And when I broke down the importance of sanitation workers, why we are important to the community, why we are essential in what we do, they actually was like, well, actually, your job is kind of cool. And I saw a light bulb go off. And then my older daughter went to school asking questions about composting and recycling. So now her school's trying to figure out how to start a composting program. And so I was like, if I could do that for my 3 kids, I could also do it for kids around the world. So in like 7 days, I wrote the book, and I had a project management team, and I found an illustrator, and we did all these things. And I was self-publishing. Then I got picked up by a literacy agent. Then I got dropped because she got sick. So I went back to self-publishing. Then I went through the whole thing of shipping. And so, but I'm happy to say that books are finally being shipped. And so they're for purchase now. They're on my website, yourfavetrashman.com. You click on the I'm Cool Too tab, and $5 of every book goes back to the Philadelphia public schools, because I want to raise $1 million for every single public school in the city. But I'm not going to give it to the district, as my nonprofit is going to cut a $4,600 check for all 215 schools. And then we're going to deliver them individually and add $4,600 to every school district's budget this year. So that's the goal. So far, we're 1,500 books, and the goal number is 200,000. So every so often, I'm pushing for the book, and I even have a little thing, a little slide going around where I'm encouraging companies and corporations and businesses to purchase 100 books at a time and then donate them to a school or library of their choice. So I'm just trying to hit everybody, CSR, all the grassroots, all the elementary schools, all the bookstores, all the libraries, because the book is really transformative when it comes to, I did a reading for 4th graders, and now they're all asking questions about environmental justice and how come downtown looks different from North Philly. And now we creating conversations in 4th graders about why parts of the city look different. And then we can create a space where we can start teaching our children in the next generation why cleanliness is next to godliness, right? So I'm really excited to see the book hit the hands of preschoolers and 1st graders and 4th graders and really start creating those conversations.
I am just so excited about this conversation because this is important in, a variety of communities. And a lot of folks don't want to get involved because it takes a lot of work and there's a lot of bureaucracy. I know I face it all the time. So if you can just tell us where can we purchase this book?
Sure. So if you go to my website, yourfavetrashman.com, so that's YAFAV trashman.com, and you click on the I'm Cool Too tab, you'll see like a thermometer, you'll see the stats, and you'll see that I think we've sold over 1,500 books already. And it says pre-order. So my graphic designer is actually changing the language this week because we just got out of the pre-order sale because books are shipping now. And books are shipping from Pensacola, New Jersey. So we're giving everybody 7 to 10 days. We're using Book Baby. I tried to go local for my printing. Everybody was telling me to go overseas, but I really wanted to find somewhere local. And we're really just pushing the book. We're pushing corporations to buy 100 copies. We're pushing, small mom and pop businesses to buy 50 copies. And we're just really trying to get the book as far as possible to start creating those conversations. But also the book is really fun, it's light, it's colorful. There's even a scavenger hunt inside the book with QR codes where the adults can find out more about practical sustainability companies around the country and stuff. So I put a lot of hard work into it, and it's really fun. The age ranges from like pre-K to 4th grade.
Right. Thank you so much, Terrell. Keep up the great work. Come back and join us anytime. And
For sure.
I'm definitely going to be sharing that book. I have a lot. I'm an educator myself, and one of my other friends is a school principal, and hopefully she'll get the entire book for her, get the book for her entire school body. See, it wasn't, I'm a little hot.
It's okay. It's okay. You're human. I love it. I love it. We're all human. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. So I appreciate you so much, Terrell. Now back to you, Dorothy.
Thanks, Sharonda, and thanks, Terrell. That your work is so inspiring. And I just started following Terrell on Instagram. I encourage everyone to do the same. It's doing great stuff. Next, let's bring in the TCS Food Waste Committee Chair, Gina Cole. Gina?
Thanks, Dorothy. On Thursday, October 20th, we're partnering with the Camden County Office of Sustainability to bring the New Jersey Composting Council for a 4-hour intensive composting event. It's a hybrid meeting, so you can join us at the Sustainability Complex in Blackwood or online. It's a free event to attend, but you must register. The links are going to be in the chat. We all know what a big problem food waste is in New Jersey. Our next guest tonight is Julia Garcia from the Department of Environmental Protection, Division of Sustainable Waste Management. Welcome, Julia. Can you tell us what the state is doing to regulate food waste and what we can be doing to help?
Hi, Gina. Yes, thank you for having me. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I have a short presentation to share. If I could share my screen. If you could just bear with me, please. Okay, hopefully you can see my screen all right.
Yes.
Perfect. So yeah, I will share a little bit about how New Jersey is addressing food waste, and with that I'll provide some background first. Food waste that enters landfills will decompose anaerobically, which just means that it'll break down without the presence of oxygen, and that results in the production of methane gas, which is a very powerful greenhouse gas, as I'm sure many of us are aware. It's even more potent than carbon dioxide, and it's capable of trapping much more heat in a shorter amount of time, in our atmosphere, that is. And DEP estimates that 22% of municipal solid waste in New Jersey consists of food waste, some of which was edible at the time that it was disposed, and that means it could have been donated, likely. And food is intended to be eaten, of course. So when food is wasted, it also wastes precious resources like fresh water, energy, land use, and labor that went into producing it. And Feeding America estimates that 43% of the total food waste generated in the US comes from consumers. The further down the food supply chain you go, of course, the greater those impacts will be. So addressing the consumer-generated food waste can have really positive impacts on the environment. And if you haven't seen this image before, this is EPA's food recovery hierarchy, which prioritizes actions organizations can take to prevent and divert food waste. As you can see, prevention by source reduction and donating food is more preferable to recycling food waste, and the least preferred method action is disposal. So some ways that consumers can prevent food waste are donating surplus food, shopping with a grocery list and actually sticking to that list, avoiding buying in bulk unless you're sure that the food that you buy will get eaten, and keeping track of how much of that food does get thrown away, because it's more than you might think. So there's a couple of laws that New Jersey has passed to address these issues surrounding food waste. The first one is the Food Waste Reduction Law, which was passed in 2017. And this law establishes a goal in New Jersey to reduce the amount of food waste generated by 50% by the year 2030. And that uses the estimated amount generated in the year 2017 as a baseline. And this is what we call the 50 by 30 goal. The law also requires DEP to develop a food waste reduction plan, which provides information about food loss and waste, our current efforts, and it also outlines actions to move the state towards achieving this goal. And we held 3 public hearings to solicit input on the draft plan in 2019 to be incorporated in the final plan, which will be posted on our website when it's finished. But if you'd like to see the draft plan, it is available on our website, which I'll provide a link to at further in the slideshow. The next piece of legislation is the Food Waste Recycling and Food Waste to Energy Production Law, which DEP is tasked with implementing through rules and regulations. This law requires certain large food waste generators to source, separate, and recycle their food waste if they are located within 25 road miles of an authorized food waste recycling facility, and if they generate a projected average of 52 or more tons of food waste per year. This law also establishes a food waste recycling market development council, which will research the current state of food waste recycling markets and provide recommendations on preferred methods of recycling food waste, as well as how to better stimulate these markets. So what is food waste? The food waste recycling law defines food waste as food processing vegetative waste, food processing residue generated from processing and packaging operations, overripe produce, trimmings from food, food product overruns from food processing, soiled and unrecyclable paper generated from food processing, and used cooking fats, oil, and grease. But it doesn't include food donated by the generator for human consumption, nor does it include what we call plate waste, which is also any waste generated by a consumer after the generator issues or sells it to the consumer. I've also mentioned the term large food waste generator earlier, which is essentially any of these business sectors that are listed on the screen that produce more than 52 tons of food waste per year. I've also used the term authorized food waste recycling facility, which is just a Class C recycling center in New Jersey that is authorized to accept, store, process, or transfer food waste or compostable material. There's currently 2 of these facilities, one in Trenton and one in Elizabeth, and both of them produce energy from the recycled food waste. And as I mentioned before, a business may be considered a large food waste generator, but if they don't fall within the 25 road miles of one of these facilities, then they're not required to source, separate, and recycle their food waste. So this leaves a large portion of the state that is currently not subject to the source separation and recycling requirements. And the figure shows that. You see the 2 points on the map of New Jersey. Those are the 2 authorized food waste recycling facilities. And that shows the 25-mile radius surrounding the facilities. So you can see that Burlington and Camden counties, only a portion of those counties are covered by the law, and Gloucester County is not even within that radius. So it's important to note that although there's currently only 2 of these facilities, more can open in the future, which would require the large food waste generators to comply with the law if they end up falling within that 25 road mile distance. Large food waste generators that are subject to the law could alternatively choose to recycle their food waste using these methods that are listed on the screen, which include enclosed on-site composting, anaerobic or aerobic digestion, or what we call alternative authorized food waste recycling methods. So it provides some flexibility to what generators can choose to manage their food waste by. And the department is developing rules and regulations to implement the law, which includes the processes of authorizing these methods of recycling. So the first step that businesses should take to determine whether they are subject to the source separation and recycling requirements of the law is calculating how much food waste they actually generate on an annual basis. The department has provided resources on how to do this on its website. Generators will also need to locate the nearest authorized food waste recycling facility to determine whether the establishment is located within that 25 road mile distance. And regardless of whether a business is subject to the law, the department recommends, of course, that everyone reduce the amount of food waste that they generate. But if a business is subject to the law, it should determine how it will manage its food waste and begin coordinating as necessary. There's also pending legislation that is being reviewed by the Senate that I figured I'd include just for your general awareness. I don't have any specific details on these proposed bills. Some of these bills include Senate Bill 421, which establishes statewide targets to reduce disposal of food waste in landfills. There's also Senate Bill 2371, which amends the food waste recycling law to allow large food waste generators to send their food waste to landfills that harness the methane gas emissions for energy production. And lastly, Senate Bill 2730, which requires solid waste management districts to develop a strategy in their solid waste management plan to reduce food waste by 50%. And again, I just thought I'd share these to make you aware that they exist, but you can find proposed bills like these on the state legislature's website using their bill search tool. And I provided the link at the bottom of this slide for you. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you for your attention. Feel free to visit our websites. We have one link for a recycling site and reduction site that can provide more details about what you can do to reduce your food waste generated. And please feel free to contact me at reducefoodwaste@dep.nj.gov. Thank you.
Thanks, Julia. We did have one question. Are there any plans to build authorized food recycling facilities closer to the Philly suburbs?
I am not aware of any that are currently looking to be cited. That is the hopes of this law and part of the Market Development Council, that there will be more facilities throughout New Jersey in the future.
Great, thank you. Back to you,
Thanks,
Dorothy.
Gina.
Back to you, Dorothy.
Gotcha. Sorry about that. Sometimes the mute button just doesn't cooperate. So thank you very, very much, Gina and Julia. I'd like to bring in Marty Levin from Mount Laurel to introduce our next guest. Marty.
Thanks, Dorothy, and good evening, everyone. It's great to be with you. I'm sure many of you are aware of the two important federal bills that have been passed within the last year. The first, the Investment and Jobs Act and Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. And the second one, much more recently, the Inflation Reduction Act. Well, we have a special guest tonight, Beverly Ward, who's the Field Secretary for Earthcare Southeastern Yearly Meeting and also co-clerk of the Quaker Earthcare Witness. And she joins us tonight from Florida. And she'll be sharing with us implications of both of these bills on our region, because of a lot of funding available. And if we're wise and we can work the levers of power properly, we can take advantage of some of this infrastructure money and benefit all the people in our 101 towns. So Beverly, I didn't see you on the list earlier. I hope you're still here with us.
I'm still here with you.
Oh,
can
wonderful.
you hear me? Yeah,
okay,
great.
I'm going to turn it over to you at this point. I appreciate your being here.
I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. Can everyone see my screen? I have a few slides to share with you. And I call this the Earth We Seek to begin this discussion. First of all, as we've been talking about, I look at it from the human impacts that we're having on the environment, and looking at the 3 counties and the growth between 2010 and 2020. These 3 counties account for about 15% of New Jersey's total population. And this is important to keep in mind because a number of the funds that I'm talking about are based on population, the way they're going to be allocated to the states. So if you look at it, the pro rata share for the region, for the Tri-County region. So most of the funding focuses on access and mobility, the transportation network writ large. There's money in there for extreme weather, climate collapse, water quality, following up on some earlier presentations, and air quality. So very quickly, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act was signed by President Biden on 15th of November 2021. It's over $500 billion dollars in new federal funds. As I said, most of it goes towards roads and bridges. There's also lots of money for greener transportation. weatherization, internet, and pay attention to the water infrastructure funds that are here. Quickly, there's a breakdown, and I failed you. I did not include, I have the wrong information here. I'm going to update what I send to Marty so that I have Gloucester in here, because there is I did break down Gloucester. I picked the wrong but this gives you an idea of the breakdown of funding. Roughly, a lot of money goes to roads. This is repairing infrastructure. There is some flexibility in this funding that you need to pay attention to because of the way our federal funding goes. Although it reads roads, there's lots of money in there for amenities, for pedestrians and bicyclists. There are some decisions that communities are making in terms of taking out some like elevated roadway infrastructure and bringing it down to ground level, creating boulevards and so on. Bridges are very important. The transport options is really focusing on transit, mass transit. There's some flexibility to do some things both with roads and transit in terms of rail. Very important, based on earlier conversations, is the the EV charging stations. And looking at where these will be placed, there's lots of money for that. The two areas that over to the side, the competitive funds, these are funds that are available nationally where areas can come together and compete for additional funding, particularly in EV chargers and competitive. There's also money for major projects. Estimated in New Jersey, about 115,000 people at the time this was done had no internet. There are another about 1.5 million people who could benefit from an affordability benefit, which would help people pay for their internet costs. This is important because it is assumed, and one of the things we found during when everybody was on lockdown with COVID, that lots of areas that we thought were internet rich, such as urbanized areas, had serious pockets that did not have access. So that's really important. Under wildfires and weather, there's money for weatherization. Terrell mentioned the low income heating and energy, LIHEAP funds. There's more money out there for that. The senator mentioned cyber attacks. There's money in this bill for that. Clean water. This gets to the water infrastructure issues that were also mentioned, and then also airports. So what's important about this is that not only is this funding available, but it also, because of a piece of an executive order that President Biden signed a week after the inauguration, the Justice 40 initiative, which directs that at least 40% of the overall benefits from federal investment go towards disadvantaged communities. There are 21 priority programs, and we can think about, when we think about disadvantaged communities, there's a climate and economic justice screening tool that's linked here that you can take a look at, what is defined there. Here's an example of this census tract from East Camden and Albert Village. There were, just in this census tract alone, 7 categories that were identified that put this area as disadvantaged. So there's some legacy pollution issues, some health burdens, clean transit, clean energy, and so on. So this gives you an idea of what this tool can do in helping you locally identify these areas. And finally, the Inflation Reduction Act, the information about this has just come out. There is a state breakdown that I will include in the link that the updated slide deck that I sent to Marty. I haven't gotten to breaking down by county what this means, but I've promised all the counties that I talked to that as this information is updated, I will share with you what that looks like. Basically, this is, as has been touted, there's over $360 billion in energy and climate programs. These programs are also subject to the Justice 40 initiative. There is problems that some people in the environmental justice community feels that still not enough is being done. And then there's the poison pill that Senator Manchin negotiated, but we're working on that around oil and gas drilling. Finally, the next steps that I would encourage you to think about is that the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission has a page. I'm going to put that in the chat box for you to link to, that you can go and take a look at what the Planning Commission is doing around allocating these funds. I really have a lot of respect for the Planning Commission because they very much encourage people to get involved. You can sign up for their newsletters. You can volunteer to be on their citizens committees. They have a technical advisory committee. They have a citizens advisory committee. There's a bike ped committee. They have lots of, and some of you may be already familiar with this. This is a way to be involved in the decision-making process about how these funds are allocated. You already have identified a number of programs in your Tri-County area, which is great because you're coming together as a group saying regionally, this is what we need. We've already done the citizen science. We've already identified areas. So I encourage you to be, and they actually look forward to groups such as Tri-County Sustainability coming to them saying, we've done this, we're ready. Here are the projects that we've already prioritized. So I didn't put the link for their public involvement or public engagement page, but they have a page that you can go there. And when I send, as I said, when I send Marty the updated slide deck, that link will also be there. Marty knows how to find me, Ruth Darlington. I usually warn people that once I visit with you, I keep coming back. So don't be surprised if we're in another meeting and I pop up. This is what I do. Thank you much. I know I went really fast, but this is the way I wanted to get the information out.
Beverly, thank you so much. I have a couple of quick questions, if you don't mind. I noticed that there was an allocation for airports. We don't have a international airport in our counties, but we do have some small regional airports. Is that what those funds would be? Yes, they can. And particularly if you've identified needs. One of the problems with small regional airports is what's the status of the equipment there? How, are you able to have staff there 24 hours? Those kinds of issues. What's the condition of the runways? So those are, and that's one of the things that's happening with climate collapse is that we need lots of redundancy in the system. So this is a way to advocate for, like, let's not even, what if someone had to be diverted from one of the larger regional airports? From one of the larger international airports or even larger regional airports? Can the airports in your region, deal with that? And so that's that, yes. Okay. And the other thing you mentioned was that screening tool. Is that something you can put a link in the chat for? So that I definitely can. I will or just send it to me. That'll be it's in the slide deck. Okay. And also on the link I gave you for the Regional Planning Commission, they actually have a link to the screening tool on that webpage. They talk about Justice 40. I think they even have a whole Justice 40 webpage about what they're doing. I just want you to know that I know people from that planning commission, and they are really, they really would appreciate your input. Great. Well, thank you. That's a terrific incentive for us to make contact with them. And I think there are actually a few folks on our committee who are already connected with them. And I just want to put in one quick plug, actually, about something that Dorothy said early on, that she's a Rutgers environmental steward. Many of us on this call are. It's a terrific program. It starts again in January, I believe. And so if it's something that you have an interest in, it's offered statewide. It's a limited expense. and it's a terrific program. And so I would be happy to answer any questions about that. I've been involved with it for the last 5 years, and it's been very rewarding. So again, thank you so much, Beverly, for coming and joining us tonight. And we look forward to further communication. And Dorothy, back to you.
Thanks, Marty. And thanks so much, Beverly, for that incredible wealth of information. It's very exciting, actually, what is ahead for us. Right now, I'd like to stick with the theme of funding and bring in Bill Johnson, who is an environmental justice co-chair for TCS. Bill?
Thanks, Dorothy, and hello, Tri-County Sustainability Community. I'm Bill Johnson. I live in Collingswood. There are a lot of grant opportunities to go with all those billions of dollars in federal funds coming to New Jersey. Chris Whitehead is the leader of the air practice group at Enviro-Sciences of Delaware and a friend and advisor to our EJ practice committee. Welcome, Chris. Tell us about some of the grant opportunities available to our towns.
Well, first, I just want to say thank you very much for having me tonight. And thank you, Sean and Bill, for the invitation to chat a little bit on a couple of topics I care very much about. I also have a little bit of a slide deck that I put together. So let me start that up real fast to share my screen. Hang on one second. I have to share it first. Hold, please. Okay, thank you very much again. As they said, I'm going to be chatting with you tonight about grant writing. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide, but a very quick overview of who I am and where I'm coming from. I've been in environmental compliance now for a little over 15 and a half years, specializing mostly in air work. Any consultant will have done other media and other projects, but that's the bulk of my expertise, things related to air quality. But the last couple of years, what I do want to highlight is work I've done in environmental justice, climate impacts, and offshore wind development. I really honestly feel like that's where I found my home in a subject matter technical basis. And that's where I wanted to ideally actually share a little bit of that knowledge with the group, and ideally, if possible, try and do impactful work as consultants and bring some grant funding to South Jersey. I was born in honestly care quite a bit as to what happened in this state. So when New Jersey came through with the EJ law a couple of years ago, I was one of the first in the country to start talking about the potential that it had to be a national model. And then before we know it, there's grant funding and opportunities everywhere. So what I kept thinking to myself is, okay, how can I leverage the capabilities that I have and that my company has? That's a couple of those are bulleted up here to again try and bring some funds home. And that's my ultimate goal, and that's what I hope we could start working on after this call and in the coming months. The idea of actually writing a grant and applying for a grant scares the heck out of a lot of people, and it honestly doesn't have to. The most fundamental thing that you're doing is you're telling a story about how you're going to answer a need. You have to be able to identify what the need is, able to document it, then also go out and identify potential areas of funding. And if you dig into this a little bit, you'll find that there's a lot of money out there. You have to try to find what the best, most applicable fit is for the project that you want to do. Once you have the instructions on that, you can pull that down, and there's going to be some forms you have to fill out, some boxes you have to check. But the biggest thing is, as I said, you have to tell the story about what exactly is a project that you want to do. You have to understand how long it's going to take, ballpark, of course, how much money you're asking for, to do it, but then ideally also be able to have it be the start of something and not just be a one-off. One-off projects are nice, but in experience and from what I've found talking to other people, you tend to get preference if you can build something that can actually continue on after the initial project phase. I'll talk a little bit about how I've been able to do that in the past and also some of the things I'm working on currently. And the final thing too, you have to be sure what you're trying to propose is actually achievable. Awesome to be ambitious. I will always encourage it, but you have to also have the understanding as to what exactly you're trying to meet and how you're going to try and meet it. And let's see. Okay, backing up a little bit, where exactly are these grant opportunities? One of the biggest, and this isn't going to surprise anybody, one of the biggest areas, one of the biggest agencies putting cash out there right now for these projects is the Environmental Protection Agency. If you go on their website, they have extensive guidance on how to fill out these grant applications, what they're looking for, number of educational webinars on topic. But then they also link you over to grants.gov, and it has a very good website that at first, if you don't dig into it, can be kind of intimidating just because of the vast scale of opportunities that are out there. But if you dig into it a little bit, I think chances are you're going to find that there's money available for the type of project that you're trying to accomplish. And of course, there are also highlighted topics that are getting a lot of attention right now. These run across the gamut. Electric vehicles is huge. Anything environmental justice, there's a lot of money out for, but also improving energy efficiency, anything associated with climate change. There's pretty fundamental, broad categories, but I just want to try to hammer home the point that if you have the want and idea of how to do a project and the passion behind it to actually get these things completed and paint the picture of the project you want to do, there are funds available out there. It's not just the federal government. I could have just as easily actually highlighted New Jersey, but as I was putting this slide deck together, I happened to get one from the New York DEC on electric vehicles. So basically any way you want to put in a charging station, you probably get funding for it today, but that's a little joke on the side there. But just wanted to end quickly with what I'm working on currently. I was contacted not too long ago by a colleague who was working with Clean Air Council, Western New York, a comparable organization to ours, and they wanted to try and bring grant funding to Buffalo, but they didn't know exactly how to best do it and what they were best equipped to address. So one of the first things that we did was dig into the background a little bit about what's going on in the area. Look up things like asthma rates on the Department of Health website. Look up if there's any large-scale permitted sites in the area. What type of industries do they have? That type of background is going to give you a lot of information as to what the potential impacts are, and then also what your options might be to remedy them. Once you have that in hand, if you don't have the expertise within your organization, you have to, of course, bring in people who know about these certain things. That's how time I got called in, and we helped them set up an ambient air monitoring network for PM 2.5. What is PM 2.5? It's one of the smallest particles that is actually emitted when you burn fossil fuels. It's essentially scraps, but it's the stuff that gets lodged in deep down in your lungs and your respiratory tract and causes things like asthma, causes various respiratory conditions and ailments, and is unfortunately extraordinarily common and just builds up over time. So we're sending them up to monitor a stretch of highway on the western end of Buffalo, and to have things like calibration done properly, but also to train local residents to interpret, what they're actually seeing on the actual readouts that come through, because all this would be tied into an online database that would be accessible for anyone who's actually interested, but doesn't do a whole lot of good unless you know what you're looking at and how the project is scoped. So we're going to do a little training for them on that. And the application is going in a couple of days, and we should hear back from that within a few months, but we're optimistic that it's going to go through. Just an example of one of the types of projects we've been involved in, and the sort of thing that I think is extremely plausible for this part of the state. There are environmental justice overburdened areas dotted all throughout, unfortunately, all throughout New Jersey, easily identifiable, and we could easily do this type of homework to actually address a project and get something like this going. So that's one thing I would love to try and help with, and happy to answer any questions.
Chris, thank you so much. And Bill, thank you for introducing Chris to us and all the work both of you do to support Tri-County sustainability. Speaking of environmental justice, I'd like to introduce our final guest tonight, our friend Isabel Molina from the New Jersey League of Conservation Voters. And Isabel's going to tell us about her work helping towns fund stormwater mitigation efforts.
Thank you so much for the intro, Dorothy. And I am also going to be showing a presentation, and hopefully I share the right screen. Let's see. All right, can everybody see a presentation slide? Perfect. All right, so as Dorothy mentioned, thank you so much for the kind introduction. And it's also a pleasure and an honor to be here speaking about issues related to stormwater and flooding in the state of New Jersey, and some policy mechanisms and solutions that we can employ to managing stormwater. So like Dorothy mentioned, I'm the Environmental Justice Policy Associate with New Jersey League of Conservation Voters Education Fund. We're a nonpartisan, tax-deductible nonprofit that works to protect our natural precious resources by raising awareness on key environmental challenges and engaging with people and our elected officials to make positive environmental change. So as part of that work, we lead the Flood Defense New Jersey Coalition, which is a coalition made up of state and local nonprofit organizations that work to protect communities from damaging floods and harmful stormwater pollution, namely advocating for stormwater utilities, which is a policy mechanism that we will dive into further. But for the Flood Defense New Jersey Coalition, these are some of our key steering committee members, as you can see below, who work closely with us on moving these efforts forward in protecting our communities from stormwater and flooding. So what is the issue with stormwater in New Jersey? As climate change worsens, we're seeing an increased volume of runoff over time from more extreme storms, harder rainfall at one given time, going off of impervious surfaces, and all going into our waterways and kind of overburdening our sewage systems. 2018 was the wettest year on record for New Jersey, and the jury is still out on whether or not 2021 will be the wettest year in New Jersey as thus far. New Jersey is also the most densely populated state in the nation, with 12% of the state's area being impervious surfaces such as concrete or asphalt or pavement. A lot of man-made infrastructure is impervious. And when it rains, these chemicals and other dangerous pollutants on our streets and parking lots and roads end up washing into storm drains and end up in our lakes and rivers and streams, sometimes also in our communities. That makes stormwater a really serious threat that's responsible for about 60% of pollutants in our waterways. And currently, about 95% of New Jersey's waters don't meet water quality standards. Homes are also more likely to experience a 100-year flood during a 30-year mortgage period, which means more expensive damage and higher insurance costs to homeowners. And we're seeing that through 83% of communities that are already experiencing local inland flooding, and 85% of communities experiencing flooding outside of designated flood hazard areas. So even beyond the areas that we anticipate flooding, we're seeing homes that are getting hit by floods, and they did not anticipate it based on current flood maps. This problem is very expensive. So New Jersey needs $40 billion to modernize its water infrastructure overall, but about $16 billion just on stormwater infrastructure alone. And there's currently no specific funding source or dedicated funding source to address stormwater infrastructure and those needs. So what can we do? There are individual actions that we can take that communities and community members, residents, businesses can all take. And that can include employing things that are pervious surfaces or that mitigate stormwater and runoff, such as rain gardens and tree planting and pervious asphalt. All of that absorbs some of that rainfall and prevents those really sudden rushes of water that occur when there are extreme storms and that cause the issues that we see right now as a result of extreme storms. On a municipal level, we can do all of those same actions, and in addition, improve water infrastructure and sewer and stormwater pipe upgrades can occur there, as well as improvement of stormwater rules and ordinances. So we have to remember that local county and municipal planning boards are very, very powerful, and they have the tools that can create more stormwater management policies and rules and regulations that can really protect residents when individual actions aren't enough. And so how are we paying for stormwater management right now? The reality is we're already paying for it, right? We're taxed by our municipality, and some of that money, namely property taxes, partially goes towards stormwater management. So it comes through the general fund as of now for all municipalities. But in 2019, New Jersey passed the Clean Stormwater and Flood Reduction Act, which allows but doesn't require towns or municipalities to establish a stormwater utility. And I'll dive into that a little bit more in the next slide. But essentially what that would be is a separate fund from that general fund, which means that stormwater management wouldn't be paid through property taxes, it would be paid through this utility. And it provides an equitable and stable funding source to address stormwater issues. So how does a stormwater utility work? Well, basically it assesses on each individual parcel of land how much impervious surface there is. And if there is more impervious surface, then you will be charged more. So the idea is that you pay your fair share. If there's a mall or a large parking lot that is just covered in impervious surface, it will be charged more than a small residential homeowner. And that's part of the reason why stormwater utilities has been applied so widely across the country. It's in 1,800 different communities and in 41 different states. And for the average resident, it costs about $4 to pay for the stormwater utility. So it really is equitable in that it charges very little to individual homeowners and makes sure that those who are contributing also have to pay towards stormwater management. Currently, nonprofits and large parking lots and churches don't necessarily have to pay for stormwater management. And what this utility would allow to happen is to get some of that money from these groups that are contributing to the issue around stormwater. So it is a kind of, the more you have, the more you pay, but that also creates the incentive that if you reduce your impervious surfaces, you can reduce your fee. So the idea being, if, for sticking with the idea of a mall or a parking lot, if you were to employ a rain garden or some other pervious asphalt, something like that, you are able to reduce your fee, which makes it a great market-based incentive for green infrastructure to be implemented on an individual level as well. But all of the funds that are generated from the stormwater utility would also go towards stormwater management and stormwater infrastructure in that municipality and in that area. So that net benefit of all of those funds would protect everybody within that utilities authority or that municipality. So there is, of course, more that I could go off and talk about, but I tried to keep it relatively short. So I would encourage you, if you have time, to check out the New Jersey Flood Defense website. We have additional resources and articles and some stormwater webinars that are there as well. And we are also, our organization and with the Flood Defense Coalition, are working to encourage towns and cities to apply for the Stormwater Utility Feasibility Study Grant, which I'm sure certain people have heard about already, but it has been open for some time now, and they've extended the deadline a few times. And at this point in time, applications are due November 1st. I provided a little bit of background on the feasibility study. It's essentially just evaluating what the stormwater issues are and providing some potential solutions and how to comply with relevant permits and regulations for stormwater. I'm happy to drop that link as well. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to talk about this offline and to take some questions now as well. And here is my contact information. So thank you so much.
Isabel, thanks so much for being with us tonight. We really appreciate it. And thanks for all the good work you do. So right now we are going to have some rapid fire updates from our TCS committee members in 2 minutes or less. And we're going to start with Isla. Isla?
Hello there. I co-chair the policy subcommittee with Val Brown. And just very quickly, there are some growing pains associated with the state's plastic bag ban. The problem, many online grocery orders now come with a set of reusable bags for every order. Senator Bob Smith, a Democrat that represents the New Jersey 17th District, sponsored the plastic bag ban legislation, and he's working on introducing a new bill that would amend the law, focusing on several options for online grocery orders, including using cardboard boxes, requiring stores to take back reusable bags, and a third possible way is maybe using paper bags. And that info comes from ABC News, and that's all I have for an update.
Next, we have Bobby Hastings.
Hi, guys. I'm Wood, and Sean calls me a tree advocate. So I'm just going to go with that. I'm a tree advocate. Thanks for having me. That's pretty much it.
All right. Thanks, Bobby. Appreciate it. And I love the tree advocate. We all need to do that. We all need to advocate for our trees. And the next up will be Jeremiah on our Plastics and Recycling Committee.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jeremiah Williams. I am the committee chair for the Plastics and Recycling Committee. There's one update I do have over the summer, that the Preserve Gimme 5 program in New York that used to accept number 5 plastic has been terminated. So they're no longer, they were suspended, but no, they're no longer. I'm thinking the replacement option would be Rabbit Recycling in Philadelphia. I'll look more into that. Also, since there's an overlap with the food waste committee as far as attendance, we will be joining forces starting next month. We will be starting the 4th Tuesday of the month, which will be October 25th. And we'll be meeting as a joint meeting every 4th Tuesday from then on, when there is not a general meeting on that date. So we'll be getting the invite for both. It'll be 45 minutes for them, for Gina's group, and then 45 minutes for mine. as well. So that's what we have so far.
Next up is David Steinberg of our TCS Towns Helping Towns Committee. David? Oh, maybe David's not here tonight. All right, looks like we'll just move on. Thank you everyone for being here tonight. It's been an honor to host, and TCS is an awesome organization. Please join the TCS Discord channel to get more. Don't hesitate to contact us at info@tcsahub.org or on social media. And a recording of tonight's meeting will be posted on the Tri-County Sustainability YouTube channel. Good night, everyone.
Dorothy, great job tonight. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Dorothy.
Take care.
Good night, everyone.
See everyone.